Who is Jennifer Strahan?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today. Let me share a little bit about my background. So I'll start by saying my background is not in politics. I'm a business owner. I work primarily with hospitals and health systems, not only across our district and across our state, but nationally. And a lot of the work that my company does is we focus on efficiency and effectiveness. We help with overall operations, strategy, patient flow, and at the end of the day, how do you just make sure that you're doing as much as you can in the mission that you're trying to serve? So when you think about efficiency and effectiveness, we all know government's not known for that. There's certainly some opportunities there. I worked my way through college, starting with my associate's degree and eventually earning my doctorate degree. I'm also an assistant professor. I teach at a business school, and they're in the Business and Health Administration program at Georgia State. That's just something personally fulfilling I get to enjoy doing. I'm a mother. My little boy's in kindergarten. He is a lot of energy, and he's a blast. My husband and I actually met in high school. We got married in college. Have been together a long time. Very grateful for him. And we're both small business owners, so we know the challenges that people are fighting every single day with workforce, supplies, inflation. We feel it, and there's too many serious issues right now to not have a serious representative who's willing to fight for our people.
Yeah. How do you go from this person who's had a successful academic career, a successful business career, you're a mom of a young child, to going, okay, I'm going to take all these skills, and I'm going to run for Congress? How does that decision get made?
Honestly, it was a personal pull. I just felt on a personal level that, again, there's so many serious things that we're doing. My faith is a big part of that. Feel like we have our values being attacked right now. We've got one of the most progressive agendas that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And the way you stand up to that is that you're in committees, you push back against bad policy, you build relationships, you make sure that you are having dialogue that allows people to understand different perspectives, and at the same time that you are making progress and getting results. I think my career has really allowed me to have a lot of different skill sets that have enabled me to be able to do this job really well. My career's been focused on service, and I'm here to serve. I don't want to be a celebrity. I want to serve.
Yeah. Tell me this. This is kind of a two-part question. Tell me how the campaign is going, and tell me what you use to measure how the campaign is going.
Yeah. A few things. One, I think it's going really well. It's been a blast getting out and just connecting with people, talking to people out and about in the district, hearing their stories, hearing what's top of mind for them, connecting with them. We've obviously not only hear anecdotally what people are saying when they talk to us, and that's good, bad, and ugly, right? Things that they really want to make sure they're protecting, and things that they're not happy with what we're seeing today. And we've seen polling numbers that are moving in our direction. We're still early, and we're excited by the progress that we're making.
Yeah. When did you announce officially?
We announced right at the end of the third quarter, about a week and a half before third quarter
ended. Third quarter would be what month?
September.
Got it. And so when I talked to you via Zoom a few weeks ago, and I asked you this question, and I want to get a finer point on this. You said, clearly, Marjorie Greene has raised a lot of money, and that was one of the things that really helped her the last cycle. She raised a lot of money, and there's a couple of Democrats in this race who've also raised a lot of money. There's a lot. To think about how much money is in this race is kind of astonishing. I don't know that before now how many people really cared this much about the congressman in North Georgia to put this much money in this race. Not that people didn't care about it. I'm sure they did. I'm just saying this is a lot of cash. How's your fundraising going? How do you see yourself competing with that?
Sure. I think every good business person knows that you do not have to compete dollar for dollar to be competitive in the mission that you're trying to accomplish. We are very confident in the where we're at and where we're going to be able to compete in this race financially and to get our message out. We've had a very strong first quarter, so very excited about that progress, and we're going to keep the momentum going.
Yep, I saw one thing. I don't even know if this is legitimate. I just saw it somewhere online that it was like one of your financial statements said it was like $50,000. Was that last quarter? When was that?
I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it like stepping on a scale that you do it every day. You don't necessarily
Right.
know. So I leave it to my team. I do know that we need to obviously continue to raise money, but again, first quarter has been very strong for us.
First quarter's been strong. So with that, what are your goals as far as getting the word out? Right.
Sure.
We like you mentioned. We all know that in this day and age, it's not necessarily how much money you raise. Once you get your name out there enough, or people know who you are, a lot of that is kind of just back and forth. So tell me that. What's your strategy to get your? At this point, like I said, a lot of people do know you, a lot of people don't know you. What is your strategy to get that name awareness out there?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. So growing up, my parents told me to focus on 4 things: God, family, education, and hard work. I know how to work. I know how to make sure that I know what grit means. I know to make sure that when you're putting your effort into something, that it will pay off. And so a big part of this is I will work for the people, and that's showing in how much we're getting out there. We're talking to people, we're getting our message out. Obviously, there's more to come with that as we pick up and now that we're in the new year and people are actually paying attention to the race coming up. May's not that far away, but I know how to work.
Got it. When you got in the race, if it was September, you already knew that there was a lot of money in this race. That didn't deter you. That was not something that you thought, well, I can't compete dollar for dollar for these folks, so I can't even get in. I mean, you still jumped in there. So what was the part that made you confident that you could still, get in there and compete?
Well, Netflix wouldn't have a business if they looked at Blockbuster, right? So you can't just look at somebody and say, hey, you've got money and that's the end of it. There's an opportunity, there's a window. People are hungry for this. It's evident from talking to people. It's evident from our internal data and from external data. So we're excited about the progress we're making.
Yeah. Last time we talked, we also talked about this a little bit. When a lot of the things that conservatives and Republicans talk about today were not conservative talking points 5 years ago. What, in your opinion, as someone running for office as a Republican, what do you think that Republicans are getting right, and what do you think that they're not getting right? What are they getting wrong?
Well, I am a conservative Republican, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the values that I bring to the table. I support our Second Amendment. I'm pro-life. I support freedom of religion, freedom of speech. I support Georgia entrepreneurs, and I want to fight to make sure that we are not strangling prosperity and innovation with high regulations and taxes. I think the Republican Party today still stands for the same basic elements that it stood for many years ago, right? We want small government. We want low taxes. We believe in family values. These are things that are important to people every single day when they're fighting the good fight, providing for their families. That is still who we are. That's still the message that we need to make sure we're getting out there.
Yeah. So what do you think the party or voices in the party are getting wrong when it comes to what they're focusing on at this point?
Well, I think no doubt there's an element of mistrust right now, right? And rightfully so. We've had a lot of problems across the nation. We're a very divided country right now. And that's a problem because right now our current representative, she throws as many bombs on the Republican side as she does the Democrat side. And lately more so on the Republican side, right? Just the other day, she expressed that she supports a civil war inside the GOP. That's the wrong enemy. We need to be focusing on the progressive agenda of the Biden administration, what they're pushing down. That's where we need to focus. We need to make sure we're stopping bad policies. That doesn't mean we're going to agree with everything our colleagues say. That's okay. That's the real world, right? We work every day with people who believe differently than us. They come together with different experiences. That does not mean you compromise your values or your beliefs on anything, but it does mean you have to find a way to work together to progress things that are good for not just Republicans, but for Georgians, right? For everybody. These are things, again, inflation, supply chain problems, workforce, our economy. These hurt everybody, and we need to fix them together.
Dakota, is the microphone okay? Is she rubbing at all? You good?
Any rubbing.
Good. When you talk about policy, right, I think this is one of the things that it's important to explain this. When you're not on a committee, you don't get the opportunity to be part of the legislation markup process, right? You don't get the chance to sit in those rooms and say, I don't think that this should be in this bill, this shouldn't be in this bill, and be part of that conversation. She's not in any committees. She hasn't been there in committees since she's been there. It happened pretty early on where that happened. It seemed to be at the time, her opinion of that was, okay, fine, good, whatever, it's fine that I'm not in a committee. Clearly, that's an important part of the job that you're running for. Can you explain that, just kind of like what that means for the rank and file Georgia voter, North Georgia voter, 14th district, when you don't have a congressman in those conversations?
Right. So committees matter, right? When you think about being in Congress, you're there to pass legislation, and you're there to serve constituents and be their advocate to all of the programs that are run by government in DC, et cetera. When you look at committees, that is where you not only put forth new policy, potential policy, you are able to, as you mentioned, you're able to edit, so to speak, and change policy, take things out that don't make sense, add things in, and you're able to stop bad policy. So that matters whether or not your party is in control. And I would almost argue that when your party's not in control, it matters that much more, because that's going to have an impact on working with those colleagues and making sure they understand that, hey, this isn't something that's good for people, and being able to explain that. I've spent my career in change management. I have never once found someone who changed their mind by yelling in their face and calling them names. It just doesn't happen. And so you can't be on the stairs talking to somebody or yelling across the hall. You got to be able to have the tough conversations. That's what the job is. So committees matter. I will say this. I don't think it's right that the parties are kicking people off of committees. I think that's short-sighted. But I think the bigger problem is that our current representative has expressed repeatedly she doesn't want to be on committees. That's the job. That's a problem.
What do you agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on? What do you think that she does get right?
I would say that, a lot of I'm a conservative Christian. I believe in, again, a lot of those conservative values. I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, again, religious freedoms, freedom of speech, support Georgia entrepreneurs. Those are things that matter to me. And if we really want to stand up for those things, I support Trump's policies, and I think we need to send someone to Washington who can promote and protect those policies. You can't do that when you're not heard, you're not respected, you're not building relationships. Right.
Which part of the Trump policies do you support? What of the things that he tried to do did you think was a good idea?
Well, I'm a business owner. I mentioned that. My husband and I are both business owners. We felt the tax cuts. That's a huge advantage to small businesses. Very much support his effort and approach from an international relations standpoint. I believe that he really brought a strong sense of our superpower to global relationships. That is no doubt jeopardized right now with President Biden. We see, again, his support for pro-life, his support for a lot of the efforts across not just the economy, border security. Those are things that, again, they benefit everybody. It's not a party issue. Those are American issues. Those are things that I fully support.
Gotcha. In the video, do you have one video? Do you have more than one video at this point?
That's our primary video.
Yeah, so at the end of that video, you say, I'm Jennifer Strahan, and I will actually take your call. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, I want to make sure people know in the district, if you're a constituent and you call me, you call my staff, our office, we're going to answer the call. We're going to make sure you know what problems that you have. We're going to fight for you to make sure that that issue is addressed. Your staff, your office is an extension of you. Any leader knows that. It's important to recognize that. So I will make sure that I'm working for our people. Somehow we've lost sight of the fact that politics is about service. It's not about being a celebrity. The work comes from serving people. That's the fun part. That's the part that we really get to do. We get to bring policy to people that's beneficial. We get to make sure that they feel heard and they know they're heard. So I'm happy to be an advocate for people. I want to hear what they're going through, because they're not the only ones. There's a lot of other people that are going through the same thing. Yeah.
Are you hearing from constituents that their calls are not being answered?
That is correct.
Can you elaborate on that? Is there anything that you can For those of us who've never made that call or don't talk to people who have made those calls, what are you hearing?
We hear that services are not being provided where they need to be, and more will come out on that, I'm sure, later.
Okay. So you have something planned to talk about that further?
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay. All right. I asked that. Okay. I asked that specifically because how do I want to word this? I've heard some of the same things, and not enough to know how widespread it is. But one case specifically that I'm working on that is concerning to me is there something that I understand that there's something you're working on and you want people to stay tuned for maybe. But is there anything you want to say to constituents who may be considering voting for you about that issue? About constituent work is something that members of Congress traditionally have done for a long time, and is an important part of that staff. And I mean, I know the ones here in Chattanooga specifically and around have people who do a lot of work to help people. Can you talk about that a little bit, just how important that is and kind of how you see some of those things?
I think it's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
If you're not here to serve, what are you here for? I mean, that's why you're in. Again, that's what politics is supposed to be. I know that's not the reputation it has today. That's one of the things I hope to change, is that people remember this is a service industry. You're here to make sure that we're having small government, we're keeping government accountable. But of the services that people have worked for example, Medicare, Social Security, right, pay in their entire lives. And yet our spending is so out of control that our sustainability for programs like that are in question. We don't have enough to sustain that. That's a problem. So it's not only a legislative problem to make sure that we're actually managing a budget, that we're creating processes that are actually holding government accountable, but that then you can actually provide those services to people in your district. They've worked hard for them. If they don't deserve that, then what do they deserve? They deserve, I mean, that's the essence of what they've been working for. And we need an advocate for those things. You should be heard. You should know that when I'm going to my political leader, that they're fighting for me in a way that's meaningful. Not just saying it, but doing it, right? Yeah. Action matters, results matter.
Yeah. Final question for you. How do you win this race? If Jennifer Strahan is the next congressman in District 14 in Georgia, how does that happen?
One, getting out, talking to everybody, right, as much as possible. Connecting, making sure they know, one, who I am, what I will fight for. I will, at the end of the day, always listen to my constituents. I'm there as an advocate and as a liaison, a representative of them, for them. We have an amazing district. We have so many pockets of communities and personalities, and it's an amazing place to live, and I'm proud to call that home. I will make sure that we're making sure people are heard, that businesses are represented, that we're bringing attention to things that haven't always had attention. Healthcare is a good example. I honestly don't think either party's done a good job in healthcare. I think there's a ton of potential, and it's a fifth of our economic spend. I think businesses are hurting. The economy is rough. Border security, inflation. There are real issues going on today that we need to fight for. Not just talk about. We need to change them. That's why I'm running. That's what I want to see. I want to see change.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want people to know?
I would say, one, just people to get out and vote. Get out, get involved, talk to people, talk to your neighbors, talk to your community. Do some research. Don't just take everything that you're hearing from people. When you start to dig in, you'll probably find more than you really want to know across the world. So I get it. People don't want to have their head in politics right now. But that's also why it's so important for us to get involved, is because by keeping our heads down, that's how it's become a lot of what we're living in today. There's too many important issues to think about with our kids, our future generations. We have to push back on. So get out, vote. I'm happy to talk to anybody and everybody. Obviously, they can go to my website, strahanforcongress.com. They can reach out to me. Happy to talk to them, and look forward to meeting everybody as we're across the district.